I create what I speak. Master builders round me. Build a base that runs deep. Build a base that run fleets. I create what I speak. I don't have enemies. And if they are, then by tomorrow they'll be family. Yeah, I create what I speak. Too much politics on the scene. So I made my own platform, put my peoples on with me. Yeah, I create what I speak. Still waters run deep. So I waded out in the ocean to make a rope wave to the sea. Grab a surfboard and hang with me. But don't try to take my way from me. Never realize they ain't phasing me. It's truly come and wait for it patiently. Wow, I create what I speak. Not a thing beyond reach. Gain knowledge, then teach. Third eye don't blink. Hold up. Third eye don't blink. Hold up. I create what I speak. Master builders round me. Build a base that runs deep. Build a base that run fleet.
Don't be angry with me. This is what's happening. There's a war on boys and a war on women. Because now men are the new women. Who are women? What is a woman today? Alright? Because the gay men are actually defining what you look like. Check it out. Everything that you wear, they create. Don't be angry with me. This is what's happening. There's a war on boys and a war on women. Because now men are the new women. Who are women? What is a woman today? Alright? Because the gay men are actually defining what you look like. Check it out. Everything that you wear, they create.
I'm real. I mean, it's a drop kick. I go as hard. You weak as a chopstick. You go as hard. Getting beat ain't an option. I'm rocking Mars. Shiano when I die before I play with these boys. If shit goes down, we'll tell the club up. If you hear a gun sound, get ready to duck. Won't appreciate clowns hating cause it's a punk. Put him in the dunk tank, yeah, puddle the blood. I guess he showed out for the lure of the horse. If you was really thug out, you put money for horse. To me, your bud died like your casket closed. I'm the realest in the city. Ask them hoes. Ask around the city. I'm really, really hot. Never had to take it. They kiss and give me tweak. Kiss and they lick it. Yeah, they love me a lot. Then she gets the business in the day or in the dark. They know you can hate on me constantly. Just know that I'm real. Yo. Straight at it. Y'all already know what time it is. This is the Calico Show. You know what I mean? Everywhere I go, it get real. So you already know we bring it. And matter of fact, we're gonna start right here. Getting straight with it before we break it down and let the article speak. So nobody can say I added anything.
Abort73.com. The case against abortion. The case against abortion. Facts about abortion. Bringing an end to abortion. Abortion and race. Hashtag the case against abortion at Abort73. Abortion and race. For decades, abortion has disproportionately eliminated minority babies. Page summary. In the United States, black children are aborted at more than 3 times the rate. Abortion is eliminating an incommensurate number of minority children. In America today, the average black woman is almost 5 times more likely to have an abortion than the average white woman. Part of this disparity, whatever the intentions of Planned Parenthood, abortion is eliminating an incommensurate number of minority children. In America today, the average black woman is almost 5 times more likely to have an abortion than the average white woman. Part of this disparity owes to the fact that, statistically, black women get pregnant more frequently than white women, but even if we control for pregnancy, black babies are still more than 3 parts. 3 No matter what your opinion of abortion, the fact that it disproportionality eliminates members of the minority community is a significant sociological problem. Here's what it looks like by the numbers. According to the latest census estimates, just over 13% of the U.S. population is black, and yet somewhere between 28 to 38% of all U.S. abortions are for only 35 to 39% of all abortions. 7. Among black women, the current abortion ratio is 401. That means there are 401 abortions for every 11. In 2018, approximately 2,400 human beings lost their lives to abortion each day in the United States. On average, 19% were Hispanic, 38% were black, and 35% were white. That translates to approximately 456 Hispanic children, 912 black children, and states as all other causes combined. 15. Though the black population in America grew by 12% between 2000 and 2010, the U.S. Census Bureau reports that the black population grew at a slower rate than most other major race and ethnic groups in the country. CBS News reported in 2009 that Hispanics have surpassed blacks as the nation's largest minority group. Can there be any doubt that abortion has significantly impacted this demographic shift? Despite similar population numbers, Hispanic women account for up to 38%. The CDC reports that during the 1970s, roughly 24% of all U.S. abortions were performed on black women. That percentage rose to 30% in the 1980s, 34% in the 1990s, 36% throughout the 2000s, and now sits at 38%. That means that roughly 32% doesn't include the children and grandchildren that would have been born to those aborted more than a generation ago. Recognizing that abortion disproportionately impacts minorities is one thing. Understanding why is quite another. According to a 2017 Pew Research survey, there is not much of an ideological divide between blacks and whites when it comes to abortion. Though a black woman is up to 5 times more likely to have an abortion than a white woman, she is only 0.002 times more likely to support abortion as a matter of public policy. And though black women are more than twice as likely to live in poverty than white women, their poverty levels are relatively comparable to Hispanic women. In both cases, the disparity in income doesn't match the disparity in abortions, which tells us that something beyond ideology and economics is at work here. Some suggest that the reason black women have a much higher rate of abortion is because the abortion industry has strategically targeted them. Life Issues Institute reports that a majority of Planned Parenthood's abortion clinics are within walking distance of minority communities. The Guttmacher Institute insists that most of Planned Parenthood's abortion clinics are in neighborhoods with a white majority. Since each is saying a slightly different thing, it's fair to say that the data is inconclusive. That being said, successful businesses place their products within easy reach of their primary customers, and Planned Parenthood runs the most successful abortion business in the country. We can argue as to whether their geographic placement creates the demand for abortion, or whether the demand for abortion determines their geographic placement, but it's almost certainly a little of both. That's how businesses operate in the real world. John Piper, a white pastor with a heart for racial justice, recognizes that the rationale for placement is less important than the result. The de facto effect, I don't call it the main cause, but net effect, of putting abortion clinics in the urban centers is that the abortion of Hispanic and black babies is more than double their percentage of the population. Call this what you will, when the slaughter has an ethnic face and the percentages are double that of the white community and the killers are almost all white, something is going on here that ought to make the lovers of racial equality and racial harmony wake up. 26. The fact that black leaders like former President Barack Obama support abortion does not change the reality of what is happening. How many candidates for public office have abandoned a prior conviction so as to be consistent with a party platform? This is perhaps nowhere more evident than in Reverend Jesse Jackson's flip-flop on abortion. Prior to having ambitions as a presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, he was an eloquent and outspoken opponent of abortion. Though his public stance on abortion has reversed, his earlier remarks remain as applicable as ever, and show that there is more than mere numbers at stake. The following remarks come from his 1977 article for the National Right to Life News. The question of abortion confronts me in several different ways. First, although I do not profess to be a biologist, I have studied biology and know something about life from the point of view of the natural sciences. Second, I am a minister of the gospel and, therefore, feel that abortion has a religious and moral dimension that I must consider. Third, I was born out of wedlock and against the advice that my mother received from her doctor, and therefore abortion is a personal issue for me. Another area that concerns me greatly, namely because I know how it has been used with regard to race, is the psycholinguistics involved in this whole issue of abortion. If something can be dehumanized through the rhetoric used to describe it, then the major battle has been won. Those advocates of taking life prior to birth do not call it killing or murder, they call it abortion. They further never talk about aborting a baby because that would imply something human. Rather, they talk about aborting the fetus. Fetus sounds less than human and therefore can be justified. What happens to the mind of a person, and the moral fabric of a nation, that accepts the aborting of the life of a baby without a pang of conscience? What kind of a person, and what kind of a society will we have 20 years hence if life can be taken so casually? 27. Functionally speaking, support for abortion has always depended upon the dehumanization of its primary victim, unborn children, and there is strong evidence that dehumanization is always and intrinsically unjust. Ironically, it was the mainstreaming of birth control that paved the way for abortion on demand, but whereas birth control was sold as a means of preventing the unwanted and unfit from being conceived, abortion now eliminates them after they're already here. You might say that abortion is a manifestation of the worst forms of cultural bigotry. It is racist, in disproportionately eliminating minorities. It is sexist, in disproportionately eliminating girls, and it is classist in disproportionately eliminating the poor. Alveda C. King, daughter of slain civil rights leader A.D. King and niece of Martin Luther King Jr., quotes her uncle often when outlining her opposition to abortion. She writes, Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "The Negro cannot win as long as he is willing to sacrifice the lives of his children for comfort and safety. How can the dream survive if we murder the children? Every aborted baby is like a slave in the womb of his or her mother. The mother decides his or her fate. 28. The Negro cannot win as long as he is willing to sacrifice the lives of his children." Do you feel the tension in that statement? There is a sense in which the black community is being victimized by abortion violence, and there is a sense in which the black community is perpetuating abortion violence. Abortion, you see, is a form of self-immolation. It is racism, perpetrated against one's own race. It is sexism, perpetrated against one's own sex, and it is classism, perpetrated against one's own class. In theory, every mother who has an abortion does so willingly and without compulsion. In practice, this is almost never the case. As Frederica Matthews Green speculates, a woman wants an abortion as an animal, caught in a trap, wants to gnaw off its own leg. She says that not to justify abortion, but to point out that it is a violent and desperate attempt at self-preservation, which leaves its survivors permanently damaged. Every abortion is violent and fatal, but its incommensurate impact on minority children and minority communities should deeply trouble us all. This page was last updated on July 9, 2020. To cite this page in a research paper, visit, citing Abort 73 as a source. Footnotes. The non-Hispanic black community in America makes up 13.4% of the American population but accounts for 38% of all abortions, according to the CDC. As such, their percentage share of overall abortions is 2.8 times what it should be, based on their population size. Among non-Hispanic whites, which make up 60% of the population and account for 35% of all abortions, their percentage share is 0.6 what it should be, based on their population size. Dividing 2.8 by 0.6 yields 4.7. The CDC reports that pregnancy rates are highest for non-Hispanic black women, 135.1 per 1,000 women aged 15 to 44, and lowest for non-Hispanic white women, 84.1. This according to their publication, 2010 Pregnancy Rates Among U.S. Women, CDC.gov. The CDC reports that the 2014 abortion ratio for non-Hispanic black women is 401. That's the number of abortions per 1,000 live births. The abortion ratio for non-Hispanic white women is 109. Dividing 401 by 109 yields 3.7. United States Census Bureau, Quick Facts, United States. Census.gov, access July 9, 2020. Jenna German, Rachel K. Jones and Tsuyoshi Onda. Characteristics of U.S. abortion patients in 2014 and changes since 2008. Guttmacher Institute, May 2016, guttmacher.org. Tara C. Jatlowy, MD, et al. Abortion Surveillance, United States, 2016. The Centers for Disease Control, November 29, 2019, CD.
Yeah. me go back up here. If people really paying attention to these numbers, because it's wicked, man, if y'all paying attention. Some people don't give a damn. They just want the right to be able to do it. They don't give a damn the treachery that's also going on. So right here where it kind of gets serious. The CDC reports that during the 70s, roughly 24% of all abortions were performed on Black women. Well, that percentage rose to 30% in the 80s, 34% in the 90s, and 36% throughout the 2000s. And now it sits at 38%. So it only went up. Even in the first decade, it was 24%. It should have went down. How about that? Well, they say that's roughly 32% of all U.S. abortions since 73. And 32% of all abortions since 73 have been African American women. So based on the January 2020 estimate that there have been 61.6 million abortions in the U.S. since 73. We can deduce that almost 20 million of them were performed on Black babies. You know, that's their numbers, right? Because it's definitely more than that, because they'll tell you right now that it's 800,000 a year, right? So boom, right? And we know, like we say, since 73, which is over, that's 40 years pretty much. I'm tripping, 50 years. But we can deduce that almost 20 million of them were performed on Black babies. Like I said, that number's a little small. They're being generous. But as of July 2019, the Black population in the U.S. stood somewhere around 44 million, which means that abortion has reduced the size of the Black community by more than 30%. And that doesn't include the children and grandchildren that would have been born to these aborted more than a generation ago, right? Come on, let me show you these numbers. Yep. All right. Let's find this. Oh, did I pass them already? Yeah. States. Okay, among what the abortion rate is. All right, this is where it gets serious too, right? Like it says, among Black women, the current abortion rate is 401. Hey. Okay. The current abortion rate is 401. And that's for every 1,000 live births. So that's like give and take. That's almost 50%. That's like, you know what I'm saying? That's close to being 500 out of every 1,000 live births. 401, which obviously is a round number. That means there are 401 abortions for every 1,000 live births. Statistically, 29% of Black pregnancies end in abortion, excluding miscarriages, of course. Right? So that's 401 out of every 1,000. And we're only 12% of the population. And among white women, the abortion rate is 109. 109 for every 1,000 live births. Which means less than 10% of white pregnancies end in abortion. The current abortion rate among black women, which is the number of abortions per 1,000 women of reproductive age, is 25.1. That means that in 2016, 2.5% of black women aged 15 to 44 had an abortion. By comparison, only 0.67% of white women of reproductive age had an abortion that year. They're trying their best to have, and we're trying our best to kill. And we got all these reasons why. Like, why doesn't this apply to other nationalities? If it's such a great reason why we need to have abortions, and nobody else is using it greatly but us. And people actually got great reasons why. It's only one reason why a person should be able to abort. We know what it is. It's grape. You're not going to say the word. We're going to call it grape. Whenever a graping has happened, of course, yeah. So that's like, but the problem is, if we say that's the only way a person can get an abortion, then a lot of women is going to say they got raped so they can keep getting these drastic abortions, like over and over and over again. So they're saying on average, they say in 2018, approximately 2,400 human beings lost their lives to abortion each day. Like, why we talking about gun violence? Why are we talking about eating healthy? Like, why are we talking about cancer and all this other, these viruses that's killing people? Show me a virus or anything that has killed 2,400 human beings a day. Just right here. In just the U.S. We're not talking about world. The world also participates in abortions. So the numbers are astronomical around the world. But we're just talking about right here. In this little part of North America. 2,400 human beings aborted every day. Like, come on now. Wow. So, yeah, that's over 15,000 a week. It's sick. You know what I mean? So people are gonna come up with a reason why 2,400 people should be killed every day. And that translates to 456 Hispanic, 912 black children, and 840 white children. And the only reason these so-called white numbers are even that high is because a lot of who we would call Spanish people are counted as white on the census. So that would be no different in the abortion clinic. They're still considered white. So that's the reason a lot of their numbers are blown up like that. And another thing to also take into consideration, since we know the abortion clinics are in black neighborhoods predominantly, it's to also catch the mixed seeds, right? So all of those white children that are being aborted, most of those are also mixed children. That's why the numbers are truly around 50 million of black aborted babies. Because just because the mother is white doesn't mean that that wasn't a black child. You know, obviously a mixed child, but still same nonetheless. So that baby would have been born, and died. It would have been counted as a white death. It would have been counted as a black death, a black life lost. Yes, sir. We got my brother PNF coming up in a minute. We're gonna definitely chop it up, because this is like something it's bigger than a community when we're talking about abortions and the damage it has done to our people. It's bigger than just a community. This is a nation. Like, this is destroying the whole nation, right? Like they say, though the black population in America, for some reason, they say it grew by 12%. And I guess they mean the amount of people. That don't mean overall it grew any larger than any other people. So the whole population, the whole entire population grew, is really what they're saying. And we grew a little slower than everybody else. Because right here they're saying they grew at a slower rate than most other major races and ethnic groups in the country. So even though we ended up with millions of more people, it's like, yeah, we done created 16 million children in the last 2 decades, or last decade, like they say, from 2000 to 2010. But that was still at a slower rate than other major races. And yeah, it makes no sense, right? I hope people know about it. If you don't know, Planned Parenthood is the devil. If you don't know, that's the KKK. I guess I'm gonna have to take you there. Hold on, let me take you there. Margaret Sanger. They know what I want to know. Daughters of the American Revolution. Right? And for some reason, they don't want to talk about her being a part of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Let me show y'all something. Which is called DAR. See, all we seem to know about is the KKK. Well, that's the male branch. The female branch of that triple K is the DAR. The DAR is the Daughters of the American Revolution. So I hope that tells people that this American Revolution birthed the triple K. Just in case they want to smite me about that word. So matter of fact, let's see who we dealing with here. Ain't that crazy? Because Hillary Clinton said how she admires Margaret Sanger. So isn't it ironic that there was a male named Hillary, and she acted like the man in her relationship with Bill? Oh, y'all go. Gray, Margaret, Hillary, Hester, Sydney, Kit. Okay. Yep, the Fairfield family. So this would be obviously the maiden name. Yeah. Hey, PNF, I'm going through the same thing. Like the brother say, I got a room full of children right now. I'm going through it right now. For real. You know, it's summertime. But hey, that's the beauty of not participating in abortions. You know, we get to be around actual life, the children. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing better. For real. Yep, people don't know a home with no children, man. There's no life in that home. You know what I mean? For real. But yep. Let me get back to this. Actually, I'm going to show y'all who the Daughters of the American Revolution are. Obviously, they still alive and well. This is the new insignia of the DARS. And it would be a damn nut-ass black woman right in there. Look at it. Look at it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And she dressed like she an Indian. That make y'all look bad too. You know what I mean? It make us all look bad. I don't know what's wrong with them people. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, yeah, they tripping. They got these token Negroes in there. Look at her face. She know what time it is. She don't see these niggas. I can't believe they standing there with them. They in the DAR. They in the DAR. Ridiculous. Right. And why do I say that? Hell, I want to join some DAR. All right. All right. Let me see what I got here. Color us connected. What we look like. Come on now. Look at the history of DAR and the UDC. Let me see. All right. They need to hurry, get down to the DAR. Now they want to talk about all this new age shit. Nah, go back to the history. American, yeah. The folks teaching people about history that relates to the American Revolution. It has been historically all white, but some of these barriers seem to be falling. All right. Yeah, that ain't good enough. Hold on. Let's start right here at the top. Even though it's probably something that favors them. Francis Keys and the Daughters of the American Revolution. Founded on October 11th, 1890. Daughters of the American Revolution was one of the many hereditary. So don't that mean you had to be born in? That means you had to been born in these patriotic groups That's why they were associated with race pride. Now, why is these chocolate ass sisters standing over there like I'm mixed? Come on, man, get your goofy self on, man. Who traced their roots to the foundation of the United States when the sons of the American Revolution banned the entrance of women. The sons of the American Revolution. Let's get it. And DAR was formed. These women wanted to perpetuate the memory and spirit of the men and women who achieved American independence through this new society. Right? See, come on now. If I say some of this kind of stuff, y'all like I be tripping. And fought their regulations regarding bloodlines, right? And she argued that those who descended from the mother of a patriot were of degenerate stock, and those admitted, though, collateral descent, right, darkened, and those admitted through collateral descent darkened the purity of the blood. So people that's getting here because they live on a certain land or they from a certain place or territory, collaterally descending, they darken the purity of the blood because they're not of our blood or their blood. That's what they're saying. As a result, in 1894, the annual Congress agreed and strict linear descent from a male relative was made a requirement. So this is a bloodline. That's why they said it's hereditary. Right? Was one of many hereditary patriotic groups. Right? Right. As a result, in 1894, the annual Congress agreed and strict linear descent from a male relative was made a requirement for membership. Other membership requirements including upstanding moral character, proper documentation, good disposition, and other qualities deemed acceptable. This excludes poor women who could not obtain official documentation due to their socioeconomic status or that of their revolutionary ancestor. It also left out those they saw as not acceptable, like Black women, Jewish women, and Native American women. And this is the daughters of the American Revolution we're speaking about, which makes no sense that they have these token Negroes in there now. These niggas is fools and don't really care about themselves and created a group of upper class white women. These women had the luxury of being able to define their heritage as truly American, descended from the heroic white patriots of the Revolution. The notion of Republican motherhood, matter of fact, I could have let this get.
God, Home, and Country. Founded on October 111,890, the Daughters of the American Revolution was one of many hereditary patriotic groups who traced their roots to the foundation of the United States. When the Sons of the American Revolution banned the entrance of women, the DAR was formed. Ellen Walworth, one of the co-founders. These women wanted to perpetuate the memory and spirit of the men and women who achieved American independence through this new society. It grew quickly, and soon became not only a prominent heritage group, but a renowned women's society. It established a literal blood bond between women, and the white lineal societies, like the DAR, reimagined their connection to the country as their claim to true Americanism. Its first scandal came when a member, Flora Darling, openly fought their regulations regarding bloodlines. She argued that those who descended from mother of a patriot were of degenerate stock, and those admitted through collateral descent darkened the purity of the blood. As a result, in 1894 the annual Congress agreed and strict linear descent from a male relative was made a requirement for membership. Other membership requirements included upstanding moral character, proper documentation, good disposition, and any other qualities deemed acceptable. This excluded 4 women who could not obtain official documentation due to either their socioeconomic status or that of their revolutionary ancestor. It also left out those they saw as not acceptable, like Black women, Jewish women, and Native American women. This led to a special sense of superiority related to the claim of revolutionary blood, and created a group of upper-class white women. These women had the luxury of being able to define their heritage as truly American, descended from the heroic white patriots of the Revolution. The notion of Republican motherhood was particularly popular with the group, and they praised the women of the Revolution for the sacrifices they made for the greater good of the country. Mothers of the Revolution were not afraid to send their sons off to war and fiercely defend their homes, and the Dar saw itself as the inheritor of that legacy in a modern context, educating the youth on patriotism and sacrifice for country, and staunchly supported the military. They created the Children of the American Revolution in order to promote education, lobbied for Flag Day, funded the installation of historic markers for battles and events of the American Revolution, paid for grave markers for soldiers, and supported English and history classes for new immigrants to help integrate them into American society. Part of this included handing out manuals to help with different aspects of American culture and donating clothes to new immigrants to help keep women busy. At the same time, they actively argued against immigration and allowing immigrants to begin the clouding of the purity cup of Anglo-Saxon blood. The reasoning behind donating cloth to make clothing was to keep them busy, which meant less time for riotous discontent, formerly apparent in ceaseless fighting, that they considered immigrants to be prone to. This conservative rhetoric, coupled with an active role in patriotic and charitable efforts, made the Dar appealing on a massive scale, and by 1900, the membership had reached over 30,000 women. By 1929, it had 165,000 members and 2,275 active chapters. Their efforts were dedicated to education, historic preservation, and patriotism. They partially funded schools for those children of pure Anglo-Saxon strain tucked away in the remote hills of the Southland, and Americanization schools for immigrant children. Scholarship funds were given to the states to award to any student regardless of race. By the 1930s, the Dar eventually amassed property valued at over $1 million, including Continental Hall, administrative buildings, and Constitution Hall, and they were hoping to eventually open the largest genealogical resource center in the United States. Further reading: The Daughters of the American Revolution History Exhibit. Sources: Carolyn Strange, Sisterhood of...
Yep. Show y'all a little bit more as far as so y'all can definitely know. Why does this have something to say about the Ku Klux Klan, but it's not showing me what we talking about? All right. That's what we're public school. All right. A very different organization, the National Association of the Daughters of the Confederacy, was founded on September 10th, 1894 by Carolyn Meriwether Goodlett and Anna Davenport Raines. His name was later changed to the United Daughters of the Confederacy, but his mission was the same: promoting the lost cause, a rewritten history of the Civil War that glorifies the enslavement of Black bodies. They created Confederate monuments and named buildings and streets after Confederate heroes. They also wrote public school history books or history textbooks that glorified the Ku Klux Klan and developed archives and museums, all reflecting false history. See, this is what we call Reconstruction history. So who was doing it? It's these people. And that's why they were showing some people with some dark-skinned people, because they want to be the daughters of the Confederacy. And they teamed up all the way with the Daughters of the American Revolution. Right? And all of these people are a part of covering up history. You know, like we call it, Reconstruction history. Right? That's why they say they also wrote public school history textbooks that glorified the Ku Klux Klan and developed archives and museums, all reflecting false history. Or should we say Greek and Roman history? How about that? Mm. Their influence ranged from the nursery. Like, come on, I always say that's who they try to lie to. They want to lie to the children. You know, for one, a lot of people act childish, so they can lie to you too. You know, and it has the same effect as it would on the child. So they also wrote public. Yeah, their influence ranged from the nursery to the schoolhouse to public spaces. They moved the lost cause from cemeteries to town squares. So they took that show on the road. They force fed it on the children. Right? I ain't like it now. Yeah, let me see. All right. Yet wise words by Maya Angelou. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Wise words. All right. Trying to get down to the meat and potatoes. Let me see what it says. Much of what I know about this side of the family comes from a book published in 1943 by my ancestor, Professor Frank Alfred Randall. His is a history of British settlers and details a long line of Randall men who occupied indigenous land, held title to that land, raised soldiers who fought for their freedom to own that land, and who contributed to disseminating their version of history. Like I said, this is all Reconstruction history. Because didn't they just tell you his is a history of a British settler? You know, long line of Randall men who occupied indigenous land. These people are occupiers, right? And I don't know if you ever seen these group of people that act like bums. They'll come put up cardboards and live in your city, and they call themselves Occupy and whatever the name of your city. Like down here, when they were here, they were calling themselves Occupy Tampa. You know. Then when they go wherever you're at, they're gonna call themselves Occupy Chicago, Occupy New York, whatever. And that's all it is. You're occupying indigenous land. You feel me? You're not from the land. You have no ownership over it. But look what they say. You know, these are men who occupied indigenous land, held title. Now, come on now. British settlers occupying indigenous people's land, held a title to that land. Come on, man. Make it make sense. Right? And they raised soldiers who fought for their freedom to own that land, which we call the revolution. Right? And who contributed to disseminating their version of history. I mean, they created their own history instead of history creating history. They contributed to disseminating their version of history. Unsurprisingly, it whitewashes history by erasing the violence of my ancestors' theft and occupation of that land. And I'm glad he said the truth. Whoever that guy is, let's look at the author right quick because he deserves a little recognition. And this is a female. This is Krista Hunt. Matter of fact, I could listen to it all. I'll just listen to it then.
Daughters of the Revolution or Daughters of White Supremacy. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Maya Angelou. The search for ancestry can uncover many hidden branches. DNA testing done by my dad and his brother showed that, unbeknownst to us, my grandfather was half Chinese. Not only did a hidden branch emerge, so did new stories about how this could have happened. Some of these stories echo 20th century attitudes about race, gender, and class that were circulating at that time. This piqued my interest and led me to dig deeper into the personal political context of our roots. What is striking is how these histories connect with current political discourse. In this case, accusations that Chinese people are vectors for COVID echo fear-mongering about the 20th century yellow peril. What I discovered is that we didn't know about my biological great-great-grandfather Yik Sik Tom because colonial race-baiting and slut-shaming erased this relationship. Hunt 2021. Also erased my great-grandmother Hunt's voice. My search was for history. My search for histories has expanded to parallel branches of my family tree. While my father's ancestors were working-class immigrants from England and China who settled in what is now known as Canada, my mother's ancestors, descendants of the Randall family, were middle-class English immigrants who became wealthy landowners in what is now known as the United States of America. I began to search for these histories, leads from our family tree that had blown away. What follows is a personal political genealogy about the legacies of colonialism on my mother's side of the family. Searching for histories. Much of what I know about this side of the family comes from a book published in 1943 by my ancestor, Professor Frank Alfred Randall. His is a history of British settlers and details a long line of Randall men who occupied indigenous land, held title to that land, raised soldiers who fought for their freedom to own that land and who contributed to disseminating their version of history. Unsurprisingly, it whitewashes history by erasing the violence of my ancestors' theft and occupation of that land. Like much of the larger historical record, this is Randall's story. Notice the gray boxes in my family tree. Those are the women. This is all I know of them. For some, we don't even know when they were born. For others, we have no idea when they died. Frank Randall's account lacks many rich histories. It leaves me asking, what role did these women play beyond grandmother, mother, wife, daughter, sister? The stories I do know are about my great-grandmother Laura Eldred Towerton, pictured above playing the piano. What I know about her came from her travel journal, which my Uncle Eric painstakingly typed up and turned into a family treasure. She had sailed with a girlfriend from the US to England, met and then married a British soldier named Jack Towerton. My mother told me stories about visiting Laura, who was bedridden with Parkinson's disease. What we didn't know was that Laura was a university scholar, a trained pianist, a music teacher, and a writer. She clearly had the class and race privilege that would have allowed her temporary freedom from Victorian gender roles to go to university, make public speeches, and set off across the Atlantic on a trip with her friend. She was independent, pushing back against expected gender roles, at least until she got married. If it weren't for my mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother passing down these stories, they would have definitely been lost. I inherited my great-grandmother's desk, the one she sat at writing speeches delivered at literary society events. The same desk that I'm writing at now. I wonder what she thought about, what she wrote about, what she hoped for the future. For her daughter, her granddaughter, and me. When her body failed, what was going on in her mind? What future dreams did she leave behind? While I don't have answers to these questions, what I did find was a public record of the political activism of Laura's mother, standing beside the piano. My great-great-grandmother, Elizabeth Lib Randall Eldred, was a member of the lineage-based women's organization, the Daughters of the American Revolution, DAR. As a feminist, I wanted to know what kind of women's organization this was. What kind of revolution was she fighting for? How did her political involvement in this organization get passed down? What might she think of the feminist, decolonizing work of her great-great-granddaughter? Randall expectations. In 1635, William Randall Sr. sailed from London, England to Scituate, Massachusetts on the ship Expectation and became a landowner, took indigenous land. The question this immediately raised for me was, who worked that land? Did my ancestors have slaves? Holy fuck. I dug a little deeper. According to Vernon L. Briggs, there was scarcely a family in Massachusetts without two or more slaves. 89. The first enslaved Africans landed in Massachusetts in 1638, 3 years after William Randall Sr. settled, and slavery became legal in 1641. In addition to questions about who worked the land, records show that William S.R. waged multiple legal battles with other settlers over the right to own indigenous land. There is nothing in Frank Randall's book that acknowledges the violence that was required for William Sr. to call this land his. Following his death, that land was passed down from William Sr. to John to William Jr. to Samuel, and then to William's great-great-grandson Joshua Randall Sr. William Sr.'s descendants accumulated and defended the territory he staked as his. Joshua Sr. became a soldier in the American Revolutionary War, fighting for white settlers' independence from the British Empire and defending the land occupied by his forefathers. This was a revolution where new colonizers fought old colonizers Britain over their right to steal indigenous lands. Joshua Randall not only inherited and passed down land, he also passed the revolutionary sword to his great-granddaughter, Elizabeth Liv Randall Eldred, my great-great-grandmother and William Randall Sr.'s great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter. Resulting from his military service, Joshua's direct female descendants are considered daughters of the American Revolution and thereby eligible to join the conservative women's organization, the Daughters of the American Revolution, DAR. What kind of revolutionary are you? The DAR was founded in 1890 to honor revolutionary soldiers and promote patriotic history and education in the service of God, home, country. The DAR exemplified the active, nationalistic role of American women in militarization and ongoing colonial nation building. In the lead-up to the U.S. declaring war on Germany on April 6, 1917, the DAR played a key role in mobilizing support for the war. According to Simon Wendt, the period from 1914 to 1918 was a watershed period for the DAR and other anti-radical women's organizations because it marked the emergence of an anti-radical movement that received much of its support from white middle-class women and made anti-feminism a central pillar of its ideological thrust. 946. While first-wave feminists were largely anti-war, the DAR celebrated wars past and present and instructed conservative women to heed the patriotic call to duty. On August 16, 1917, Lib responded to that call and became the first generation of Randall daughters to participate in this lineage-based organization. What is striking is that she was 71 years old when she joined. Like most DAR members, she was white, Protestant, conservative, and middle class, and was clearly swept up in the patriotic mobilization for World War I. This would have been the first bulletin Lib received as a DAR member detailing how she should contribute. Will not each daughter of the American Revolution make it part of her war work to become a sister to an American soldier's or sailor's family by making it a part of her service to her country to bring happy little surprises, unexpected pleasures into the lives of these sorely tried women and children, thus giving them something bright, something cheering, something happy to write about to him? She was called to take up arms in her forefathers' fight to maintain white America by fortifying the domestic sphere while men were fighting overseas. Post-World War I, the DAR became increasingly anti-radical. During the interwar period, the DAR was a vanguard in fear-mongering about un-Americans, including African Americans, feminists, peace activists, and unassimilated immigrants. Wendt 943. In the name of God, home, country, the DAR were vocal advocates of a whole lot of banning. Books, performers, unpatriotic teachers, intermarriages, Chinese immigrants, and the list goes on. Chow, McCrae. They forbade discussions of the suffrage movement, went on to ban black musicians from performing in their concert hall, promoted segregation in education, sought to assimilate and re-educate immigrants and force Southerners on the American way of life and participated in government red baiting. They considered themselves the real daughters, which really meant the white daughters. Good stock. Okay, let's take old stock. My family tree is rooted in indigenous soil, sown by slaves, property lines staked and defended to protect that tree. It grows from the rays of privilege that eclipse the colonial darkness that prevails. My great-grandmother's involvement in the DAR provided nativist fertilizer that maintained the growth of militarization, nationalism, and white supremacy. Of note is that Lib was approved for membership in an organization that would have excluded me on a number of grounds. There was a divisive debate within the DAR about membership eligibility, echoing the politics of eugenics that was circulating in public discourse and state policy. For some, membership was based strictly on revolutionary lineage. If you could prove this, you could join. Others were concerned about potentially impure blood of descendants. These members advocated for an additional requirement of unblemished character, Chaw 161, Strange 115. Up until 1977, that meant even if a black or indigenous woman could trace her ancestry back to a revolutionary soldier, she would have been denied membership because she was not considered a pure American, echoing the Ku Klux Klan's 100% American slogan, Strange 114, Medlicott 29. My Chinese ancestry would have disqualified me. In fact, the DAR explicitly advocated banning Chinese immigration, Medlicott 106. I examine this not because I would ever want to join, but rather to further unwrap these tangled branches. Intersecting with race, I would have also been disqualified because I have epilepsy. In fact, epilepsy was specifically discussed by the DAR because of controversy surrounding DAR founder Ellen Hardin Walworth. Walworth's son was convicted of a crime and subsequently diagnosed with epilepsy, which was believed to cause criminality. At that time, epilepsy was one of the many defects that eugenicists wanted to weed out, and many DAR saw Walworth's family as evidence that the organization should be concerned about the fitness of revolutionary descendants. They believed that it took one unfortunate union to corrupt revolutionary blood and to produce degenerate or defective progeny. Strange 110. Me. A weed to be plucked at the base of the Randall family tree. I would also be considered unacceptable because of my politics. Devotion to God came first for the DAR. Atheists and feminists were considered un-American and were amongst a long list of people that were a threat to the DAR's project of preserving the white traditional family and nation. The DAR was vocally anti-suffrage and anti-feminist and characterized themselves as female patriots. They banned discussion of feminism and women's rights in their meetings. Their agenda was to prune the branches of patriarchal trunks. My goal has always been to dig up those roots. The DAR were actively involved in patriotic education. If I was around at that time, I would have definitely been on their list of un-American teachers. I come from a long line of scholars and teachers. But rather than teaching the white, male canon, I teach my students about the power they have to mobilize and fight white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, and colonialism. I am involved in an entirely different revolution with a radically different vision of how to find liberation and freedom. I am a blight on the upward mobility and succession of my forefathers and mothers. And it is spreading. What this search for ancestry reveals is that my ancestors gained their own liberty at the expense of others. They passed down land that was stolen from indigenous peoples and fostered an ethno-nationalistic American culture. They were soldiers in colonial wars, as well as members of proto-military, white lineage-based organizations. They passed on the story that our family got where they did because they worked hard and came from old stock, rather than benefiting from the white, class, and gender privilege of settlers. This is a history of privileged daughters who failed to see how this revolution did not provide a revolution for their daughters, who were pushed back into the private sphere following the war. My goal is to learn about the colonized soil in which my family's roots are firmly planted, to look directly at the water and nutrients of white supremacy that feed my family tree, to understand the process of pruning and shaping branches through hegemonic stories and education. It is about how this family tree absorbs the son of colonial heteropatriarchy and how the leaves will fall. It is about the direction new branches will take. To be clear, this isn't about guilt or shame. That does nothing to challenge colonialism and white supremacy. It is about facing the truth so it need not be lived again, Angelou. Because it is being lived right now. I have the power and privilege to contribute to writing a new story, starting with an understanding of my family's history on these lands and a commitment to a revolution that dispossesses no one. As future ancestors, it is our responsibility to challenge the politics of our lineage by the actions we take in the present for the future. Works cited: Angelou, Maya. On the Pulse of Morning. Random House, 1993. Briggs, L. Vernon. History and
Yeah, man, that's fire. Just showing y'all, like I say, the Daughters of the American Revolution are the female version of the KKK. Seriously. Yep. 7 things United Daughters considered. Yep. Let's see what they said. Yeah, right. Let's see. do this project was a little intimidating for a bunch of white women trying to tell the history of African American soldiers. She said she had the idea to write the book Black Yankees. Niggas don't know that ain't no good thing. Like niggas okay with being called a Yankee nowadays, man. That's what you should never be. That's like being Toby, man. You want to be Toby, huh? Scared to be Kunta. Scared to run from them motherfuckers. You Toby. You're a good boy. Good old boy. Black Yankee. You know, when she had 18 black soldiers relegated to the back of a 102-year-old book in the back of it, honoring Tippecanoe County's World War I veterans. She only acknowledged 18 of them. She should have put every name in there that died fighting for their punk ass. Because, you know, they put the blacks at the front of the line. Like, they would put the black soldiers out there. If it's 1,000 black soldiers, 10,000 white, they're going to put all 1,000 black out there for a couple of days until they don't hear no more gunshots. Then they go in behind them and go to war. Like, that's all war is. War is just another form of abortion. It's just genocide. It's all genocide. They talking about how black soldiers were going across the world, and they would come back to America from overseas and thought they would have this respect. Well, they came back to the Ku Klux Klan. The Klan achieved prominence in Indiana. Like I tell people, that was the Indiana Klan is where we get the Ku Klux Klan. Right? Quick browse of Dar's history will likely reference the 1939 incident when the group prevented renowned African-American singer Marian Anderson from performing in Constitutional Hall. A historic building in Washington, D.C. that the group still owns, and they denied her on the basis of her race. Yeah, they didn't allow black artists to perform. And that was something we just read on that other article, as well as this one. Their organization wished that history could be rewritten. Yeah, they talking about how they trying to rectify. But yeah, they are who I say they were. Right? Let me see if they got some images, what they got going on the image tip. All right. View of a line of women as they march in a Ku Klux Klan parade along Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. That's how you know Pennsylvania was the first capital, because they have a Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. And obviously it leads straight to the Capitol, right there in the background. The WKKK was independent of the Klan and just as committed to bigotry. One research, yeah, they're talking about the women's KKK. A group that formed in the 1920s, depending of men's Klan. All right. Let's see. Let's see. I'm not going to slow y'all down. Indiana Klanswoman nearing the end of the last dude was surprised to learn that many did not feel remorseful for their role in the WKKK. Of course they didn't. All right. So the thing that relevant here in terms of the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s is that women's suffrage movement was an opportunity for a very large number of women to develop political skills that they hadn't had before. In trying to pass the suffrage amendment and working at a local level, state level, or the national level, women essentially started to become political agents themselves. Yeah, the male clan started saying positive things about women's suffrage. All this bull. Let me see. Oh, I'm on a whole different page. Y'all can't even see my page. I done clicked over. I apologize for that. Matter of fact, let me my apologies. Hell no. WKKK. The Colorado women of the Ku Klux Klan. Ladies of the Invisible Empire. Of the Mystic Den and the Puritan Daughters of America. The charter membership of the new KKK. Let me see what they saying. I guess this is a preview. The first Ku Klux Klan. It was mostly after slavery that the fear white men had of black men began to take some of its most lascivious forms. It was then that the myth of the black man's sexuality, the myth of the black man as a sexual monster, as a threat to pure white womanhood, began to gain force. After the ill-fated Reconstruction period, like I keep speaking of, came the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. I'm trying to tell y'all, 1871, the Act of 1871, the KKK took over the government. All of this is after the revolution, the so-called revolution, right? That's when the republic died. The republic form of government died and the democratic form of government was born. Democrat means against the government. We are the people, we the people, and it didn't include them. So, they took arms up against that. And after the ill-fated Reconstruction period came the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, the thousands of lynchings, and the group effort on the part of white men to sever the black man's penis from his body. This is what they was doing when they was lynching. Michelle Wallace, black macho, in the myth of the superwoman. Wow. The terrorization of black men, the abuse of white women of the lower classes, and the conflation of politics and sex were interlocking elements in the broader sexualization of politics in the Reconstruction South. Martha holds the secularization of Reconstruction politics. I like that. I got to get these books. These are some powerful books. This is what I'm saying. Y'all smash that like button. All that. This is what I mean by what the donation would help. The donation is going to help not only pay for StreamYard and, being able to do field studies if y'all ready to do that, but it'll definitely open up the gate to be able to get more literature. Most likely get just get the virtual version of the book instead of the physical book so that we all can enjoy it, right? For real. So we could do great builds on Books like Michelle Wallace's Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman. Martha Hode's The Secularization of the Reconstruction Politics. I got to get with that. That's what it was. It was secular. When they reconstructed everything, it was very secular. Only benefiting them. Only addressing them. Right? The Ku Klux Klan played a crucial role in bringing about the restoration of white Southern control. The Ku Klux Klan played a crucial role in bringing about the restoration of white Southern control. Edward L. Ayers, Vengeance and Justice, Crime and Punishment in the 19th Century South, 1984. Pictorially, the Klan presents this return of the repressed in a stunning manner. White pillowcase and sheet, the face covered, identity disappears, and with it, the conscience. A group stalks in silence through the darkness. A sudden abrupt appearance before the victim. And finally. Yeah, that's got to be a good book. White women in the Ku Klux Klan. Right? All right. Now I know this gonna be something right here. Let me shout them out. This is the second coming of the KKK. The Ku Klux Klan of the 1920s. All right. All right. I don't know why it's not highlighted. All right, they're gonna let me. Okay, there was particularly great overlap between the WKKK and the Daughters of the American Revolution, but their difference in priorities was significant. While the DAR was intensely racist toward African Americans, it did not agitate against Catholics or Jews. In fact, it acknowledged that some of them were eligible for membership because they had ancestors who contributed to the American Revolution. And unlike the Klan, the 1920s, DAR concentrated on reviling subversives, that is, liberals and radicals. Continuing the post-war anti-communist hysteria, it created a blacklist of seditious organizations, just like right now they have done so with so-called Black identity extremists. This is just DAR creating a blacklist of seditious organizations, right? Ranging from labor unions to the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. It worked not only to protest disloyal speakers and deny them access to lecture halls, but also threatened to expel any members who attended lectures by these liberals, radicals, socialists, communists, and anarchists, as the committee wrote. And I'm guaranteeing that's the same thing with these rappers. They can't fuck with us because we're on that list as being liberals, radicals, socialists, communists, anarchists, as the committee wrote. We're seditious organizations. But it identified as enemies by race, religion, and place of birth rather than ideology. So it's just the fact that you're a Moor. They don't give a damn where you from. But, rather than ideology. For example, it's anti-Semitism did not much identify Jews with radicalism that the WKKK avoided. For one, this is way before Hitler, you know, way before. But that the WKKK, women's KKK, avoided ideological and foreign policy concerns, and may also reflect the dominant assumption that women should not be concerned with international relations, a sign that it accepted some and challenge of the aspects of the conventional gender order. The first groups to appear called themselves Klan auxiliaries. They announced themselves boldly. Huh? You heard that? The first groups to appear called themselves Klan auxiliaries. They announced themselves boldly. Elizabeth Taylor announced that we plan that all women who join us shall have equal rights with that of the men. Many male leaders rejected this claim because it implied a sex-integrated Klan. To admit women represented a major sacrifice of many Klansmen who valued their entitlement to a unique men's club and the male camaraderie that they so enjoyed. But the evidence suggests that Tyler's claim was correct. In Maine, the Klan had explained, women came to me in groups and requested that a branch for women be started. They then worked out plans for such an auxiliary. The Oregon chapter, for example, began as the Ladies of the Invisible Empire, Loti, right? Ladies of the Invisible Empire, organized through an ad in the Klan newspaper, the Western American. Wow. A typical way to reach recruits. And Loti's Supreme Grand Council included 4 male Klan leaders who filed articles of incorporation for the women's group, but even the Klansmen, Klansmen's most resistant to allowing women the use of the KKK name, reversed themselves when they recognized their material interests by making the women's organization official. The Klan could seize a significant share of women's cluck tokens, priced initially at $5, but later raised to 10, and other payments. At least one Indiana WKKK Clavern had to send 66% of its revenue to Klan headquarters. In Pennsylvania, another dollar per woman member went to the state Klan, and this practice may also have prevailed elsewhere. Anti-Klan journalists pointed out that women's groups were profitable enterprises for the Klan. Unsurprisingly, there was rebellion. For example, the Maine WKKK no sooner formed than it challenged the Maine King Kleagle's demand for half of his dues. The challenge contributed to a coup that forced his resignation because the women's clavering were often quite flush. The Arkansas WKKK took in $322,000 in 1925. For example, conflicts over money soon weakened male-female unity in the Klan. Official Klan publications typically communicated conservative, even Victorian messages about what women should do. God intended that every man should possess, insofar as possible, his own home and his rule and rule his own household. Or we pity the man who permits the loss of manhood through fear of wife. The most important female virtue was chastity. And it was men's duty to protect and enforce that virtue. Klansmen imagined their women as supporting the men who would monopolize the serious work. Typical of male expectations was a comment that the women are going to play an important role in regarding to uphold the morals of our young women. Let us give them our full support and see that they grow in grace and numbers. Right? So, enough of that. Let me show you. They're going to stop playing with me, and they're going to show that Margaret Sanger is a part of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I'll stop playing with the people. All right. Well, irregardless, Planned Parenthood. All right. All right. Boom, boom, boom. What we got here? What do we have here? Okay, the article read Miss Sanger, unrepentant birth control advocate, continues work. Story by Mr. Andrew Bryson. The Daughters of the American Revolution are outraged that Miss Margaret Sanger's birth control clinical research centers continue to operate 4 months after charges laid by the New York City police were thrown out of court. It's like saying, damn, you almost got us all in trouble. You think they would care if she wasn't in their organization? They only care because, it can get all of them in trouble. They're all a part of the same organization. Yeah, peace to the God. Y'all smash that like button for me. I appreciate you. Damn, I ain't even smashed the like button. Okay. But hey, y'all do that too. I appreciate you. Yeah, I would have liked to have read more of that. But they clipped my wings. They know that's a good book. The Feather Bed. Right? They ain't want to go no farther. They're like, no, sir. You getting no more of this. Hold on. Let me see. I know how I can get that. What's the name of that? Mr. Andrew Bryson. Right? Andrew Bryson. Let me add him to this. As a matter of fact, yeah. All right, let's see if we got it here. Yeah, the magazine? Okay, let me see. 1917. Daughters of the American Revolution magazine, huh? Boom, 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 boom. State conferences. What? The first place, what? Indiana. Where the Indiana Klan came from. Like it's showing you how the Klan was birthed in Indiana. Let's see if I even want to deal with this. Nah. They got it in boring text. So let me go. All right. See if they'll show me a little bit more this time. Or they still gonna have a little bit. Uh-oh. Let me see. And police were thrown out of court. All right. Leading charges against Margaret Sanger's clinic has on numerous occasions publicly criticized the New York City police for refusing to lay further charges. All right, let me see. All right. Miss Sanger, unrepentant birth control advocate, continues work. Story by Mr. Andrew Bryson. The Daughters of the American Revolution are outraged that Miss Margaret Sanger's birth control clinical research, because she was killing they babies too. She didn't give a damn. It's eugenics, man. Get them raggedy ones out. That's how she looked at it. And Hillary Clinton admires her greatly. That's her hero. But anyway, Sanger, I'm gonna show you that too. Sanger's Birth Control Clinical Research Center continues to operate 4 months after charges laid by the New York City police were thrown out of court. There is no excuse for this flagrant disregard for justice and decency, said Ms. Van Helsen, speaking to the press yesterday on behalf of fellow DOAR members. Ms. Van Helsen, who laid the original complaint leading to the charges against Ms. Sanger's clinic, has on numerous occasions publicly criticized the New York City police for refusing to lay further charges. A spokesman for the police force, however, shifted the blame squarely to the shoulders of the judiciary and said Ms. Sanger and her research center were being closely watched. All right. Indeed, citizens of this city could be forgiven for wondering how or why can the courts see fit to plainly disregard common immorality in our midst. Furthermore, should the police force abdicate responsibility for enforcing the law, allowing clearly illegal activities to propagate? Because this was going down before Roe versus Wade. So Hillary Clinton admired the biggest crook in America. Because her and her clinics were offering this service of abortion before Roe versus Wade under the guise of eugenics. So she was killing all races. But Planned Parenthood, her biggest achievement, ended up targeting just mainly us. And of course, mixed seeds. That's what the people don't understand. That's why the clinics were in black neighborhoods. Because even if it's a white woman getting an abortion, it's most likely from a melanated or mixed person of some sort, a different race. It's a mixed seed 9 times out of 10. But they would have went to a clinic in their neighborhood. All right, Sadie, how long are you going to be in there? Her mother called from the apartment down the hall. Okay, different page. All right. But at least we finished that little article right now. Right. Let me see. Let's see what happens if I take that off. Lone Tree, chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Let me see what they're saying. Let's see what they got here. All right, from Managed Vicky told the presidential facts of American history and Julie Pylan's absent. Marilyn Haller read an American Patriot Minute that led Julie had provided about the First Continental Congress. That's the only thing that caught my attention. First Continental Congress that was held in Philadelphia from September 5th to October 26, 1974, to draft the Declaration of Rights and grievances. Right? It just recommended all DAR members attend at least one. Boom, boom, boom. They ain't talking about nothing. They think I ain't. I skimmed through that. That was easy. That was nothing. Let me see. Margaret Sanger's grandson hopes for a future where we don't need Planned Parenthood. Yeah. 100 years ago today in 1916, Margaret Sanger started a revolution where she opened America's first birth control clinic. Like I say, this was before Roe versus Wade. So her thing was birth control. Yeah. And eugenics. So that meant once the baby's born, we might have to make a decision like, and this baby's not suitable. You know, this baby has defects. But 100 years ago, boom, 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 okay, it was illegal. It was an illegal move that got Sanger arrested, since even information about contraceptives was banned as obscene material, because, you know, it's poison. You feel me? So look how they, and this was 1873. And then by 100 years later, we had full abortions. You know, but it was the opening salvo in a decades-long fight to make contraception legal and accessible for American women. Sanger founded the organizations that later became the Planned Parenthood Federation of America. She was never actually an advocate for abortion, right? She thought abortion was wrong and that birth control. They're saying just goddamn create a eunuch. Goddamn chop it off or fuck it up. That's even better. Corn, because she hated more euphemistic phrases like family limitation with the proper way for women to control their fertility and avoid suffering from illegal abortions or dying in childbirth. They ain't nothing good about Planned Parenthood. And I also kind of want to show y'all what's this? Yep. Abortion-related mortality. You know, 42 million women a year worldwide choose abortion. 42 million women worldwide. That's got to be there's got to be a lot of melanated babies all around the world that they're really seeking out and destroying. You know, whether they be mixed or, you know, two melanated parents. Right? Let me see. Right? Go back one up here. You know, women do die getting abortions. So sometimes they're getting a 2-for-1. You know, they're aborting a baby and a mother at the same time. You know, during the period from 1998 to 2010 of approximately 16.1 million abortion procedures, 108 women. See, they're showing the bet when they got better at it. But in the beginning, in the 70s to the 80s, you know, more women died. But, you know, they'll make 108 women seem minuscule because not one of those women are their family, their loved ones, because that's all it would take. The fact that it's just one, one of them is their family. It would hit home and be a serious issue, right? For a mortality rate of 0.7 deaths, uh, which is not far from saying one every 100,000. So if it's a chance that women can die, aren't they hurting these women? At the very least, aren't they hurt after these procedures? The mortality rate increased with gestational age. Uh, like the older a woman was having these procedures, it went from zero point 0.3 to 6.7 deaths for procedures performed at 8 weeks or less. Not the age of the woman, I apologize. It's the gestational age. So we're talking about the age of the fetus. You know, when when this is performed at 8 weeks or less, right? It's the 0.3, and at 18 weeks or greater, it's a 6.7 deaths. We're talking about the mothers, not the abortion. A majority of abortion-related deaths at 13 weeks of gestation or less were associated with anesthesia complications and infection. Whereas a majority of abortion-related deaths at more than 13 weeks of gestation were associated with infection and hemorrhage, which means when they snatched that plug out, they couldn't stop her from bleeding. The plug being the placenta and the baby and these things that are attached to your organs, that are mounted in. It's like rooted in. It's like snatching a plant out of the earth. Just the earth don't bleed, but you most definitely would, right? In 20 of the 108 cases, the abortion was performed as a result of a severe medical condition. So they tell her your life is in danger. You could die having this baby. And they died having the abortion. Yeah. They don't want to go back to when it first started. Which it was hundreds. So it's been thousands of women that's died like this. That's just it. They just told you. One out of every 100,000. So one out of every 100,000 when they just told you it's 46 million abortions a year worldwide. One out of every 100,000. So we know that's, just to be round, we're going to say that's 9 women every million, and we said times 46 million. So that's that 9 times 46, which is 451 women a day or a year. Because they're saying 46 million. Excuse me. And that's just a round number. They don't care if that number goes up or when it goes down. They're just giving you a round number, an average of a number, because they know it happens all too often, right? So 451 women dying every year from this, and this is at this stage of medical. Like, we're supposed to be more advanced. So in 70s and the 80s, it had to been a lot worse. Seriously. I see. see. Yeah. Peace to the family. Let's see if I get. Let me see what I get on the images. Wow. Of the 56 million abortions that take place each year, because now they're saying 56. I just told you before 46 on a different chart. Now it's more updated, maybe, and they're saying 56 million abortions that take place each year worldwide. An estimated 25 million. That means half of them are unsafe. This will, we're supposed to protect our women. I mean, should we let them do what they want, or should we just protect them at all costs? Should we protect our nation at all costs? So yes, the brothers are gonna have to feed the whole house full of people when they have the means to do it. Since I know that's a big issue right now. And hopefully, the ancestors or the powers that be. I mean, hopefully we all can people can reach this status that we can take care of these type of situations with ease. Because I don't think a child should be left behind. Not one child. I mean, not one day should the children go hungry. So it's got to be a system, man. We got to come up with a system. We got a system for births, for killing babies. How about we put that $100 in a pot? For real, and start to make it grow just for the youth. Like we giving senior citizens a check. Can we form something to give the youth a check? Is that an issue? I don't think it should be an issue. I think it should be a given. Come on now, look at that. Total deaths. No pregnancy, birth, miscarriage, and abortion. Everything is higher than birth. Everything is higher than birth. Is we looking at the chart? No pregnancies. Miscarriage is nearly as high as no pregnancy, and abortion is higher than them all. Or this is how the women are dying, my bad. Okay. So you got a less chance of dying by birthing a child. You got a greater chance by dying by having a miscarriage. And you have the greatest chance of dying by an abortion. Yep. So abortion deaths by year. And this is not just the actual numbers, it can't be. Those are like by tens or whatever. We're talking about the hundreds. Okay, let me go to another one. Hold on. Wow. Wow. The distribution of abortions. they're attacking Africa. You know, and they're claiming the ones in America are safe, but they're still big on abortion. Wow. Yeah, and the risk is 15 or 16 times greater, 15 times greater when a woman is beyond those 12 weeks of gestation, like 16 weeks. That's 16 to 20 weeks. Yeah, it's 15 times greater risk of her dying from the abortion. All right. Increasing pregnancy related deaths. Wow. hmm More than 1 in 10 pregnancies and abortion. Wow. Sad. But yeah, it's attack. It's definitely an attack on us. Let's see. Pull something up right quick. Do I have it? Okay, hold on. Let me see. I'm going to share this page with y'all before I get up out of here. Like I said, New York City has more abortions or black abortions than births. Obviously, I've been trying to wake people up. This is a post from 2017. But New York City abortion rates and deaths by race and ethnicity, right? New York City abortion rates, 265. And this is for every 1,000 live births. So for every 1,000 live births of whites, 265 are aborted. Out of 1,000 live births, 517 Hispanic are aborted. And other nationalities, out of 1,000 live births, 614 are aborted. Out of 1,000 live births in New York City, 1,223 are aborted. That is more than the 1,000. That is called a negative rate. That is astronomical. That is more than that are being born. More are being aborted in just New York City than they're being born. See if I can find some of my old stuff on him, because I've been had this. Like this study right here, Between 1972 and 1987, 240 women died as a result of legal induced abortions. The case fatality rate decreased 90% over time from 4.1 deaths per 100,000 in 1972 to 0.4 in 1987. Obviously, that number is back up to 0.7 right now. And women 40 years old had 3 times the risk of death as teenagers, which is relative risk is 3.0, 95% confidence interval of 1.5 to 6.0, right? Yeah, so yeah, it's 1.5 compared to a 6.0, a 6 time. You know, they have a 6 chance, you know, the 6 times more of a possibility of dying. And black women and those of other minority races had 2.5 times the risk of white women. Abortions at or equaling 16 weeks were associated with the risk of death, almost 15 times the risk of death from procedures at or around 12 weeks gestation. So what I told you, abortions at or equal to 16 weeks were associated with a risk of death, almost 15 times the risk of death from procedures at just 12 weeks, you know, a month before. So women undergoing courage procedures for abortion, what I said, had a significantly lower risk of death than women undergoing other procedures. Whereas before 1977, infection and hemorrhage were the leading causes of death. During 1977 through 1982, anesthesia complications emerged as one of the leading causes of death, and since 1983 had become the most frequent cause. So anesthesia is the main thing that's one of the main things that's killing at least 20% of the women that die from aborting the fetus. Because not just the baby always dies. That's what people got to learn. Let me see. I got a number find it. Yep, this stuff right here, that's this type of stuff, right? I'm charging, like I said, this was 2017. I'm charging the black woman with inhumane acts against the natural beings, which is us. Over 59 million abortions since 1973 and nearly a million in a single year. Like they'll tell you 800,000 on some list. But if we're going to win, it starts here. The black woman is God, but in these situations, she's the devil. And I ain't sugarcoating it. You know, more than crime, more than accidents, more than cancer, heart disease, and AIDS. Abortion has taken more black American lives than every other cause of death combined since 1973. Hold on, as a matter of fact, let me go back to that. See what pop up next to that. There are 2 victims in every abortion: a dead baby and a dead conscience. That's one thing. Like I said, I don't care who you is. I'm with you when you're right. Yeah. The black woman has never been thoroughly examined for her role in the destruction of the black family. Wise words of our queen sister, Shahrazad Ali. Black children are an endangered species. I think I'm gonna have to leave it like that. I'm real. I'm real. I'm mean as a drop kick. I go as hard. You weak as a chopstick. You go as hard. Getting feed ain't an option. I'm rocking Mars. She yellow when I die before I play with these boys. If shit goes down, we'll tell the club up. If you hear a gun sound, get ready to duck. Won't appreciate clowns hating cause it's a rough. Put him in the dunk tank, yeah, puddle the blood. I guess he showed out for the love of horse. If you was really thug, now you put money for horse. To me, your bud died like a casket closed. I'm the realest in the city. Ask them hoes. Ask round the city. I'm really, really hot. Never had to take it. They kiss and give me twice. Kiss and they lick it. Yeah, they love me a lot. Then she gets the business in the day or in the dark. They know you can